Okay, so this is just an incredible story. It's about how a husband and wife team from Colorado decided to take on a fight to protect the honor of America's military heroes. And get this, in the process, they ended up changing federal law not once, but twice.
But before we really dive into their story, we've got to be on the same page. Let's start with the question that kicked off a battle in a legislature that lasted nearly a decade, and really, a whole national conversation. What does it actually mean to steal valor?
At its core, it's a form of impersonation. It's when someone throws on a uniform they didn't earn or claims they won a medal for bravery they never showed. And it's seen as just so deeply offensive because, well, it cheapens the very real sacrifices of our actual service members.
Now, you'd think a national movement to outlaw something like this would start in some Washington, D.C. think tank or maybe a fancy congressional committee, right? Nope, not even close. It started in a much, much more unexpected place.
This is what's so amazing. The whole thing was sparked by a single student's research paper. I mean, this wasn't some top-down thing from Washington. It was a true grassroots effort that literally began in a college classroom.
So the student's name was Pam Sterner. For her political science class, she decided to write a paper about people who fake their military service. She even used that term, stolen valor, which, fun fact, she got permission to use from an author who wrote a book on the subject. But this wasn't just some paper she was going to turn in for a grade. Oh no. She and her husband Doug, who's a Vietnam vet and military historian, they decided they had to do something about it. They literally took her paper to their congressman, John Salazar, and convinced him to use it as the foundation for a brand new law.
And that one single action that led to the first huge success in their fight, the original Stolen Valor Act.
And as you can see here on this timeline, their perseverance was remarkable. This was not an easy or a quick process at all. The Sterners spent 2 full years in what they themselves called a frustrating lobbying effort, just pushing and pushing this idea forward, but they did it. They actually succeeded. In the final days of the 2006 congressional session, the very first Stolen Valor Act was passed.
So the beauty of this first law was really its simplicity. It created a very clear, very direct legal consequence for falsely wearing or claiming you had military honors. For the Sterners and all their supporters, this was a massive, massive victory.
So they'd done it. They had achieved their goal, or so they thought. A major constitutional challenge was looming just around the corner, and it was one that would put their entire effort in jeopardy.
And here is the gut punch of a twist. In 2012, the U.S. Supreme Court delivered a stunning blow. They struck down the law, arguing it actually infringed on free speech rights. And in this incredibly powerful, personal moment, Doug and Pam Sterner were actually sitting in the courtroom to hear that decision come down, the one that undid years of their hard work.
I mean, faced with a setback like that, the Sterners could have just given up. A lot of people would have, but they didn't. Instead, they adapted. They went right back to the drawing board to push for a new, smarter, and this time, constitutionally sound version of the law.
So the key to their comeback was to rebuild the law from the ground up, and the process was very deliberate. They created a new bill with a much, much sharper focus, one that was specifically designed to address the Supreme Court's concerns head-on.
And this slide right here, this captures their brilliant solution. The new law zeroed in on fraud. See, it wasn't just about lying anymore. It was about lying to get something of value. We're talking money, a job, any kind of tangible benefit. And that shift in focus from pure speech to tangible harm was the game changer.
And that small but absolutely crucial change made all the difference in the world. The revised law sailed through Congress with almost unanimous approval. I mean, that overwhelming support showed there was a strong national consensus on this, that we need to protect the integrity of military honors, as long as it's done in a way that respects constitutional rights.
So what's the ultimate takeaway from this incredible story of citizen-led change? Well, it's about so much more than just a piece of legislation.
And this, right here, this gets to the very heart of their motivation. The law is a tool, for sure, but the real mission for them, especially for Doug, is his life's work, curating the Hall of Valor. It's the world's largest, most comprehensive database of U.S. military award citations, a project that is completely dedicated to preserving the stories of real heroes.
This quote from Doug Sterner himself just perfectly captures his perspective. For him, uncovering fraud isn't some exciting gotcha moment. He actually calls it an annoying detour. Every single moment he has to spend investigating a faker is a moment taken away from his real passion, documenting and honoring legitimate sacrifice.
And that really leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? The law the Sterners fought for is now on the books to deter fraud. But their story is this powerful reminder that the much larger work, the work of remembering, of documenting, and of honoring our genuine heroes, well, that's a mission for all of us.